All right, and we're live again. Let's make sure that we can see everything. All right, so let's take a look at our dough. See, our dough has grown considerably. Now, normally what I would like to see are bubbles, like lots of bubbles, right? Nice and jiggly, which is what you want to see. Ooh. And I would like to see more bubbles, but that does not mean that it hasn't fermented. It's clearly grown quite a bit. And yeah, I think we're ready to divide and pre-shape. So what I am going to do, what I need for this is my scale that I wiped off. So here's my scale that I wiped off. I'm going to need this literally just to get the dough from the bowl onto the counter. That's literally all this is going to be for. And you're going to see how I'm going to do that quickly and efficiently. And then this is where I need my bench scraper. Now, because we have enough dough, the first thing I'm going to do once I put the dough on the counter is hafrashas challah. No bracha, though. I don't, speaking to various rabbis, there's not enough flour to make a bracha on it, but you should do hafrashas challah. So I did get a piece of foil to put challah on right there. And yeah, let's get started. I'm going to take it off. I'm going to take the dough out, put it on the counter. I'm going to divide it into 4 pieces, but then I'm going to weigh each of the 4 pieces to make sure that they're at least 900 grams. That's the size of the loaf that I normally go for. So I'm going to also use a little bowl of water just to wet my hands and to wet this a little bit, just to limit the amount of stickiness. Do not use flour. We are past the point where we do not want to incorporate any more flour than necessary. We will use flour in the very last step, which is the final shaping, but as of right now, no flour. So I'm going to take this and I'm literally going to start to just scoop it out a little bit, drop it, turn it around, and just let it fall out. It will get there. That is a whole lot of dough. The fact that it's stuck like that is actually not a very good sign. But as you can see, giant slab of dough. First things first, let us take a little bit off for challah, and we're good. Actually, I'm going to shove it in the oven right now. I preheated my oven to 500 degrees. I believe since that's the temperature that we will be baking. Okay, so this is actually probably the hardest part. Not even kidding. Because you need to do this with dexterity, but at the same time, you have to be very gentle with the dough. The dough is still a little sticky, and there are a lot of air bubbles in the dough because, again, the gluten has formed. There should be a lot of air pockets in there with a lot of carbon dioxide, and you do not want to be hitting the dough too much because you don't want those air pockets to burst and all that air to escape, because then you won't get that nice oven spring that we want to get when you're baking it. So what I'm going to do, so I got my handy dandy bench scraper, put a little bit of water on. I have a little bit of water on my hands too. I'm going to cut it down the middle. I mean, I say you have to be gentle, but you don't have to be very timid about it. Just be forceful yet gentle, if that makes sense. So I cut it down the middle in half, and then you get a better sense for what the weights are going to be. Like, this is a giant piece that I just cut here. Now I'm going to do what's called a pre-shape as I'm weighing. I'm going to sort of turn it so that it makes a ball shape. Maybe it's easier if I do it with this back piece of dough. So I'm going to turn it, turn in. See how it's coming to be like a nice ball? And the top gets very nice and taut. But I still need to weigh it. So let's make sure that that is way too little. Let's cut off a piece, 822, 875, 910. So I'm going to take this. I'm actually going to turn it over so that it more easily incorporates the pieces that I put back on. And I'm going to do that with every single piece. And if you need to add a little bit of water, you want to make sure that it doesn't stick. This is the really hard part. Go under at a slight angle with your bench scraper, and with your other hand, turn and in. Turn and in. That's how you get a taut skin. Turn and in, turn and in, turn and in. I'm going to take this, weigh it. That is way too much. Perfect. That's 900. Okay. Now I'm going to want to make sure that I get these nice balls, like big balls. It looks like a boule, actually. The shape of this is a boule, B-O-U-L-E. And interesting fact, I believe the French term for baker is boulanger, which I believe means boule maker. So interestingly enough, that's the case. So still gonna weigh everything out. So I got two, one of them is 910, one of them is 900. So if anyone is purchasing, you can know that they're not getting scammed, since I charge, wow, that is not even close, 722, 800, 910. So that should be good. And just to make sure, I mean, these are giant pieces of dough. Let's just make sure that this last one is at least 900, which it is 907. We're good. So all of these are at least 900 grams. This one's kind of already in a nice ball. So I'm just going to sort of leave that. This is a little bit of a mess. You want it in a nice taut ball. And then what we're going to do, nice taut ball. This is really the hardest part. I'm stabilizing with my left hand, really letting my bench scraper do all the work. Around and in. Okay, around and in. This is always at an angle, and I'm always sprinkling a tiny bit of water each time. Okay, this is also a really messy one. Let's just, this is literally the hardest part. The pre-shaping is the hardest part. This is called pre-shaping, and this is the hardest part. The next part's the most fun, in my opinion, when you get to do your final shaping. Okay, so these are four nice boules, and we're now going to let these sit for about 20 minutes. Hey Siri. Hey Siri. Set a timer for 20 minutes.
20 minutes, starting now.
What we're trying to do here is notice how I made nice taut balls. I then want the gluten again to sort of relax a little bit, so that when we do the final shaping, it's easier to get it to the shape I want. And I'm probably going to be making two different shapes just for this tutorial. I'll be doing round and oval. So that's a boule, which is round, B-O-U-L-E, and a petard, which is oval. And I'll be doing both methods for the final shaping. So again, when we're done with the bulk fermentation, then that took about 3.5 hours after our mixing. It was in the proofing basket for about, 40 minutes to autolyse after the mixing. After that, we added the salt. We added the little bit of extra water. We did our slap and folds, put it back, 20 minutes stretch and fold, 20 minutes stretch and fold, half hour stretch and fold, then leave it for the rest of the bulk fermentation time. Now that this is like a really big bubble right here. Now we take it, divide it into what are going to be our final loaves, and then you want to pre-shape it. Just make it into these nice dough balls over here. Again, you do that again. Bench scraper is your best friend for this. I call this essential for the reason. At an angle, you go around and in. Around and in. Most people don't do the in part, but the in, the friction caused by going in, is what gives you the taut skin. If you would also like, it's not a terrible idea. I usually don't. But it's not a terrible idea to actually cover the dough, especially if you have a vent. Our vent's over there, but it actually blows that way, so nothing blows directly on it. But you don't want the dough to dry out. I'm not too concerned in my house, and over the summer it definitely wasn't a concern given how humid it was in our house. But that is definitely something I do for other things I make. For bagels, for example, I will cover it because you definitely don't want those to dry out. But anyway, I got about 15 minutes left. The timer went off for my other levain, so I'm going to go ahead and start mixing that and let these just sort of rest while I work on the other batch. And I'll see you all in about 15 minutes.